everyone. Welcome back to True Crime Buzz. I'm your host, Brittany, and with me, as always, is Amber.
Hey, girl, hey.
So, what are you drinking today?
Red wine. I was going to sing the red wine song, but I already did that earlier, and Sam was like, don't ever do that again. Well, I did say it's stupid. I was like, red wine.
Oh, yeah, well, he was right. Who sings that song, Amber?
I honestly don't know. It's a white guy, isn't it?
I don't know. You should let them sing it, though.
Okay. Well, all I know is it sounds Jamaican and it's a white guy. That's all I know.
Okay.
What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Diet Sam's Cola. What else?
Diet Sam's Cola. You really should be like their
Walmart
spokeswoman.
spokesperson.
Drink Diet Sam's Cola. Brittany says so.
Let me tell you, though. So when I was pregnant with my youngest, of course, I was always drinking Diet Sam's Cola. And how about the old man that lives next door to me? You know who I'm talking about. He was going around telling everybody, like, I can't believe that Brittany's drinking alcohol while she's pregnant. He thought it was beer.
Because it looks like a beer can, yeah.
Yeah, so then he came to talk to me one day, and I, like, was about to spill it on myself, trying to, like, shove it in his face so he could see that it was Diet Sam's Cola.
He was so concerned. He came to talk to you to say, excuse me, ma'am, I don't think you should drink when you're pregnant.
Yes.
You're like, oh, yeah, exactly. I'm with you, bud. I don't disagree.
Drinking Diet Sam's Cola, homie.
So is that true? You can have caffeine while you're pregnant?
I mean, you're supposed to limit it.
Oh, okay. Because that's one of the 5 million reasons why every time people are like, oh, why don't you have kids? I'm like, well, first off, I can't quit caffeine.
No, you're just supposed to cut back.
Okay.
You can have it. It's up to your doctor. Obviously, if your doctor says no, don't do it. But my doctor said I could have it. Just the limit. And I did. So, what is your personal true crime story of the week?
I hate to use the same one twice, but my cat just will not stop. Won't stop.
Oh, sweet Bernard.
I don't know what the deal is because, I mean, he always messes with stuff, obviously, because we have child locks on all of our cabinet doors. But usually when I come into my office, he might have like a pin or something moved. But lately it's like he comes in and it's Hurricane Bernard going through my desk drawers, knocking off all the stuff off my desk. And it's like he's purposely trying to be an asshole. It's been a good week. It's just I hate getting up in the morning and coming to my office and just being like, what am I going to find today? I moved all the food out of my drawers, so he's got nothing to try to get after.
Why don't you just close the door so he can't get in?
Because his cat litter box is in here. And there's literally nowhere else I can think of to put it.
No, I'm with you. I understand that.
Otherwise, that door would be shut. But do you have any personal true crimes this week?
I'm having to think because I've had a really good week. Getting ready to go to the beach.
Getting ready to go on your family holiday. Not vacay, but holiday.
Holiday.
Packing for your holiday can be a true crime.
Yes.
Packing for 3 children.
3 children, myself, my husband, and my dog Dexter.
Oh, that's right, because you take the dog too.
Yes, I think that probably is my true crime story of the week, is packing. Packing for a family of 5 and a dog is about the most miserable thing in the world.
It's exciting, but it is miserable. And you know what's even worse is all that fucking laundry you have to do when you get back.
Girl, please. I keep my stuff to a minimal so that when I get home, like, it's 1 laundry basket of laundry for 5 people.
What? Really?
Oh, yeah. The Airbnb we're staying at has a washer and dryer, so I can wash stuff if I need to.
Oh, okay.
And you know, kids just pretty much live in their swimsuits when they go to the beach, so.
True.
All right. Who are we talking about today?
Since it is officially May and Mother's Day is this week, we decided to do a little Mother's Day special. And I know what you're thinking. Who would you want to cover for Mother's Day? Initially, it would be the ultimate mama's boy, who is Ed Gein. And he is coming up soon, but that's not who we're talking about today. Today is probably the most requested serial killer or even person at all that we get the most. And my mom, yes, Barbara, I'm talking to you, has been requesting us cover this guy since we've started this podcast. And I kept telling her, like, we'll cover him eventually, but he's like, you know, he's a big name and we want to cover some smaller ones first. But because it is the month of May, it's Mother's Day week, and the month of his birthday, I figured it's appropriate. Let's do it. So, Mom, this one's for you. Today we are covering Jeffrey Dahmer.
Pew, 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 pew.
So he is arguably the most infamous American serial killer ever. I mean, if you go to anyone on a street corner, even if they're not into true crime, and you say, name a serial killer, I would bet money they'll say Jeffrey Dahmer or Ted Bundy.
1,000%. Yeah, those are the two.
If you don't know who Jeffrey Dahmer is, he murdered 17 men and boys between 1978 and 1991, and each crime progressed to eventually involve rape, dismemberment, necrophilia, and cannibalism. This is easily the grossest, but also most fascinating episode I think we have done so far.
Yes.
This is the most fun I've had researching since Heaven's Gate. Because I am a sick person and I love guts and gore and I love learning about what makes people tick. Because if you think about it, every episode we talk about, we're like, what on earth would make someone want to do this? And why did they do this and all this? Jeffrey Dahmer is one of the few people who actually said, all right, let's sit and talk about it, and told everyone in detail exactly what he was thinking and why he did the things he did. So there's really not a whole lot of guessing when it comes to this guy.
Right.
So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Yes.
Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born May 21st, 1960 in West Allis, Wisconsin, to parents Lionel and Joyce Dahmer. So his father was big into chemistry. He not only worked as a chemist, but was also a student of chemistry at Marquette University, earning his degree in analytical chemistry. His mother worked as an instructor for teletype machines, which I don't fully understand what that is. I don't know if that's early fax machine. This was in, the 60s, so I don't know. But either way, she was an instructor for one of those and supposedly was a huge hypochondriac. She was constantly in an anxious state. She spent a lot of time in bed recovering from what she called weakness. Her husband, Lionel, Jeffrey's dad, said that she would have almost like seizure fits where she would convulse or her muscles would lock up. In interviews, she denies any of this, but she was on a lot of prescription medication from her doctors. Her doctors made house calls frequently. She was on prescription medication while she was pregnant with Jeffrey. When asked what kind of medication, she could never say. She just said, I just took what the doctor gave me. So do with that information what you will. But she sounded like a hypochondriac, if anything else. Lionel and Joyce had little Jeffrey. And as a child, he was described as timid and quiet, but also very playful, a happy child. The older he got, the more he would come out of his shell. He did have some physical ailments as a child. I read that he had casts on his legs for the first 4 months of his life, which I'm not 100% sure what that was. I don't know if he was bow-legged or what, but he had the casts on his legs and he had lifts in his shoes till he was about 6. And when he was just 4 years old, he had to have surgery to correct a double hernia in his scrotum. Which just sounds awful at such a young age. Because with most serial killers, you always think, did they have any like head injuries or anything that would cause them to act the way that they did when they got older? And as far as I know, those were the only physical ailments that he had. No head injuries that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Jeffrey's interest in dead things started very early. When he was just 4 years old, he was watching his dad sweep out old remains from dead birds from under the house, just trying to clear up some of the leaves and stuff.
Yeah.
And so his dad grabbed the bones and put them in a bucket to dispose of them somewhere else. And he loved the way that the bones felt to the touch and loved the sound that they made when they clinked against each other. Jeffrey says that's his earliest memory of just being fascinated with anything dead or anything related to the human body or anatomy.
Well, that just sounds like he was needing some sensory input.
Agreed. Not weird to me yet.
No, like, kids clink crap together all the time. That doesn't sound that weird. Obviously,
it doesn't to me either.
We know who we're talking about, but
at this point, it's pretty safe.
Isn't too strange. Yes.
Yeah. So this ultimately led to an obsession with learning how all living things worked and what they looked like on the inside. He started out small. He would collect bugs and put them in jars and would dissect them. But eventually he graduated to collecting already dead animals like roadkill. He would go out with trash bags and just collect dead animals and then just kind of dissect them and see what they looked like.
Okay.
Now, we all know I love animals. I can't stomach animal cruelty of any kind. But with that said, even up until this point, I consider this somewhat normal. And I think he's just curious about anatomy and how the body works.
Right. It's not creepy. It's a little odd. You know, it's not going to keep me up at night.
No. But with that said, he did start doing things like cutting up dogs and cats. I don't think he killed them himself. I think this was still roadkill at this point. But either way, there was one instance of him dismembering a dog and putting its head on a spike. And that's not cool.
No. That's probably where I'd have started to get really concerned about my child. Is there.
And then in November 1966, the family moved to Doylestown, Ohio. And that same year, Jeffrey's mom became pregnant with his younger brother. And I think this is really sweet, but they actually let Jeffrey name his little brother.
Oh,
I know, isn't that cute? And he did good. He named him David. David Dahmer.
Wow, that's impressive. My kids would have,
named it Pineapple or something.
like pineapple or fairy dust. Or,
yeah.
You know.
And while having a new baby brother is exciting, most parents know that it can mean less attention from them who are not already too busy to give Jeffrey the attention he needed. His dad was going to school and working constantly. His mom seemed to be busy with her own personal ailments going on. He already didn't get a lot of attention, and he said when David was born, he loves his little brother, but his parents now had 2 children to try to give attention to, so he got even less.
Right.
2 years later, the family moved again, this time to Bath, Ohio. In 1970, when Jeffrey was just 10 years old, his creepy curiosity made its way to the family dinner table. While they were eating chicken for dinner, he asked his dad what would happen if we dropped the chicken bones into bleach. Which is kind of an odd question.
It is.
But also not super weird, and his dad didn't think so either, because his dad was huge into science. He actually admired this and said, you know what? You have an interest in biology and science. I love that. So he bought him a chemistry kit and showed him how to bleach and preserve animal bones.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I guess he was trying to guide him into a scientific direction rather than, oh God, I hope he's not, doing this for fun.
Right.
By the way, I love Jeffrey Dahmer's dad. I love him so much.
I just had a thought.
What?
You said that you love Jeffrey Dahmer's dad, and that song Stacy's Mom came in my head, and I changed it to Jeffrey Dahmer's dad. Oh, that's Jesse's girl. Look.
Oh my God. I wish that I had Jeffrey's dad. Oh my God, not like that.
I know.
He's this sweet, nerdy man trying to, help his son be a nerdy little scientist he is. But for real, even at the very end, after he learned all the things that his son did, he still came to visit him once a week or once a month at jail. And, he never saw his son as, a monster. He didn't agree with what he did, but he still was his dad at the end of the day.
Yeah, he never quit loving him. His love for his son was unconditional.
Yes. So puberty was a little different for Jeffrey than the rest of us. I mean, puberty sucks to begin with, but it was way different for Jeffrey than a normal teenager. So around 14 years old, he says he started having fantasies about murder and necrophilia.
Ooh.
He said that he realized he was attracted to men, so he also realized he was gay. And being gay in the 70s was nowhere near like it is today. It wasn't near as accepting. But he was also struggling with urges, that weren't acceptable at all. So he had all these internal struggles of, not only am I gay, but I kind of want to have sex with a corpse. What do I do with these feelings?
Gay is okay. Necrophilia, nay, nay.
Put that on a bumper sticker.
That's what I'm saying.
So he had all these internal struggles. This is the sad part, though. What's worse, being gay or wanting to have sex with a corpse and dissect animals? He pushed down the gay part and went more towards the murder side. He thought that was the lesser of two evils as a teenager.
Not. Oh, that's so sad.
And it's not. So, for example, in his biology class in school, they were dissecting fetal pigs. And he was so obsessed with it that he stole one, brought it home to dissect it even further. Oh. And he described his thoughts as exciting, violent, and almost like an obsession. But because it was so exciting, it aroused him sexually, and he would then masturbate afterwards.
All right. About a dead pig. Whew. Gross, man.
And he said it's not like he's attracted to a fetal pig. It's just the dissecting and seeing the insides got him excited in a way that he jerked off afterwards.
Obviously, I don't have a penis, so I can't say. But I've heard like puberty, you can get boners in weird situations that you shouldn't, and like they just happen. So it's almost like that, but this is a little more creepy.
And everyone seems to know the jogger story. I'm sure you do. There was this guy that would run by his house every single day at the same time. And every single day he would hide along the side of the road behind a tree and watch him run. So he started visualizing him in his head, what he wanted to do with him, and visualizing him dead in his own bed. And one day he got ballsy enough and decided to bring a baseball bat with him. But wouldn't you know it, that was the one day, for some weird reason, and no one knows why, the jogger took the day off. Isn't that lucky?
So lucky.
He must have like had an inkling of some kind and was like, you know what, maybe I shouldn't run today. And it was a good thing he didn't, because Dahmer was waiting in the bushes for you, bud.
Whew.
He also started drinking very heavily in high school. He used it to cope with his feelings and almost being ashamed of who he was as a person. He's never been proud of any of his actions.
Right.
But at the same time, he knows who he is. And so he decided to start drinking, and he would even drink in school. So he would drink scotch and gin that he would carry in a flask in his jacket, and he would keep more in his locker. And one day, one of the classmates asked him, like, what are you drinking? What is that? Because he reeked of alcohol. They knew what he was doing.
Right.
But they're just like, dude, what are you drinking? And he called it his medicine.
I know a kid that got busted drinking moonshine when they were in, I think, 7th grade, 6th grade.
I knew plenty of people who drank in class in high school. It was like everyone, but not in middle school. That's pretty early.
Mm-hmm.
So while it may sound like Jeffrey was kind of a depressed outcast, he was actually considered a class clown. But like the weird kind, you know, like that weird kid, but he would just like say funny stuff and people would laugh at him and kind of think he's funny. He was like that guy.
Yeah.
He realized that he could make people laugh, so he was always doing weird things to try to make his classmates laugh. And one of them included imitating his mom's interior decorator who had cerebral palsy.
Oh, Jeffrey, my dude, no.
I know. He would just randomly start kind of walking weird and like blurting out random sounds, and kids just thought it was hilarious, and they even called it doing a Dahmer.
Wow.
But apparently Jeffrey also did something silly, like he would get into the group pictures for all the clubs, even though he wasn't in any of the clubs for yearbook.
That's good.
I think that's pretty cute, yeah.
Yeah, here for that. That's a good joke. Making fun of challenged people or people with health issues is ableist
not
and
so
not
funny.
Cool. No. Today's episode is presented by BRÜUSH. BRÜUSH is an electric toothbrush that will change the way you think about brushing your teeth. With powerful sonic technology and ultra gentle bristles, the BRÜUSH redefines what it means to have super clean teeth. It's like that feeling when you just leave the dentist, a fresh, whole mouth clean, every single day. Our listeners get 15% off their total purchase with code POD15. Follow the link in the show notes and enter the code POD15 to get your exclusive discount and upgrade your oral care routine.
So eventually Jeffrey did graduate high school. He had a high IQ of around 145, so he was pretty smart.
Hey.
But he graduated with low grades because, again, he was an alcoholic. He didn't apply himself for a number of reasons of his internal struggles, and his parents ended up getting a divorce right before he graduated. So that didn't help either.
Wow. He was going through it.
So just 3 weeks after graduation, with his parents now divorced, his dad had fully moved out and his mom was somewhere. He lived by himself for about 3 months in his own home because of his parents' separation. He's home alone. The opportunity presented itself, and he decided to kill for the first time.
Dun, dun, dun.
On June 18th, 1978, Jeffrey saw an 18-year-old Stephen Hicks hitchhiking his way to a rock concert about a mile from his house, and he decided, I'm going to pick him up. Jeffrey asked him if he wanted to ditch the concert and come back to his place instead, have a few beers and hang out, and he agreed. So they got drunk, had sex, but when he went to leave, Jeffrey decided to hit him in the head with a barbell. This did not fully knock him out, so they tussled and fought until Jeffrey ended up strangling him to death. Once he was dead, Jeffrey removed his clothes, kissed his body, and then masturbated on his corpse.
Okay.
When asked why he killed him, he said because he wanted to leave and he didn't want him to. After that, he took the body down to the crawl space where he dismembered him, put the body parts in separate trash bags, and buried them in the backyard. And years later, he actually became paranoid, so he dug them back up, crushed the bones, and then scattered the remains in a ravine about 4 miles away. After this, I think the fact that he actually went through with it scared the shit out of him because he cooled off for several years and tried to walk the straight and narrow. So he decided, let's go to college. His father convinced him to apply for college, and he went to Ohio State University to study business, but pretty much stayed drunk the whole time. Ugh. And that lasted about 6 months. So his dad said, you know what? College isn't for everyone. Why don't you try the military? And he decided to join the army, and he enlisted in December of 1978. After enlisting, he was stationed in Germany, where he was a combat medic. And what's funny about this is he hated drawing blood. Hated it.
That's so weird. That reminds me of the Paris Cannibal, though, when he was talking about, like,
yes,
he didn't,
I thought that
like,
too.
expect the fat and stuff. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That's so
Or how
weird.
he ate from the right butt cheek because the left one was closer to the heart and would probably bleed more. Like, what?
Yeah, what? Strange.
But he also could not stop drinking. And so in 1981, after just 2 years, they discharged him because of his addiction to alcohol. And at this point, he was feeling like a real failure. He barely graduated high school. He failed college. He failed the army. So now what does he do? Well, the army said, look, we'll give you a ticket to anywhere you want to go. Where do you want to go? And he thought, I'm going to start fresh, and decided to move to Miami Beach, Florida.
All right.
But this didn't last long either. Poor Jeffrey. He's trying so hard, but like just can't get his shit together. He was eventually evicted from the hotel he was living in and then tried to just live on the beach, but that doesn't work out. So after about a year, he moved back home to Ohio. So originally he moved in with his dad and his stepmom in Ohio. Side note, his dad remarried pretty quickly after the divorce from his mom. But after an almost immediate arrest for disorderly conduct, his dad was like, all right, enough. I love you, but you can't stay here, and forced him to move in with his grandma, Catherine. So he packed his things and moved into her basement in West Allis, Wisconsin, and got a job at the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center. But again, he doesn't like blood.
Yeah.
Why is he working at a blood bank?
Yeah. Why do you keep doing stuff with blood if you don't like blood, bruh?
But not even sweet grandma could keep him in line or off the sauce. Because in 1982, he was arrested for another drunk and disorderly conduct, and this time indecent exposure too, at the local state fair, and was fined $25. And then in 1985, he quit working at the blood bank and got a new job working at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory, working the night shift.
Now, see, that sounds like a good job.
That sounds like a sweet job. But oops. Thank you.
Oh, this is why we're friends.
Around this time, he became accepting and comfortable with his sexuality, so he started to get into the local gay scene.
All right, yes.
He loved to frequent a place called Club Bath, which was a gay bathhouse, if the name didn't give it away. And this is where his dark sexual desires started to take over him. Of course, the main reason for these bathhouses is to hook up and have sex. But he realized having sex with these men, he did not like the way that they moved and talked while they were making passionate love.
Yeah, how dare you?
So he started giving his partners sleeping pills that he'd crush up and put into their drinks.
Okay, so now we're drugging people.
He did this at least 12 times before eventually getting caught and thrown out and banned from that bathhouse. So then he decided to start bringing partners back to his grandma's basement instead.
Ugh, he's the hot mess express, boy.
He really is. And then in 1986, he was arrested yet again for indecent exposure, but this time for masturbating in front of two 12-year-old boys. And he received a year probation.
You, Jeffrey.
But as soon as that year was up, his dark passenger, wink wink Dexter reference, took over and he began to kill again 9 years after his first victim.
That's insane.
That's a long cooling off period.
It is.
So on November 20th, 1987, Jeffrey met 25-year-old Stephen Tuomi at Club 219, one of his favorite gay bars, and the two decided to go somewhere else and party. So they ended up at the Ambassador Hotel, which apparently was a heroin junkie place, and got drunk and did drug him, put the little sleeping pill in his drink. But this time, Jeffrey fell asleep and woke up to see bruises all over his forearms and saw that his new friend Steven had apparently been beaten to death.
What?
He had apparently murdered him and didn't remember a thing.
Wow.
So he went and bought a suitcase, put Steven's body inside of it, and brought him home to his grandma's basement.
As one would do.
Right? And like before, he masturbated on the dead body and decided I'll take care of the remains the next morning. So after he woke up, he severed the head, removed the arms and the legs, removed all the bones, put the flesh in trash bags, and then crushed up the bones. But this time he decided, I want to keep a trophy. Can you guess what it was?
What was it?
The head.
Oh my God.
So he kept it for 2 weeks wrapped in a towel and then decided, I want to keep the skull forever. So he put it in a mixture of Soilex and bleach and tried to boil it on a stove. But apparently that was too much and the skull just kind of fell apart. Oops.
Ruined your trophy.
His next victim was just 2 months later. On January 16th, 1988, Jeffrey picked up 14-year-old, yes, 14, Jamie Doxtator in front of Club 219. He offered him $50 if he could take some nude pictures of him. He agreed, so Jeffrey brought him back home, drugged him with the sleeping pills, and had sex. After he fell asleep, he strangled him to death. He kept the body for about a week before dismembering it like the others. And this is when Jeffrey said he found the sweet spot of when he would strike. He actually didn't like murdering people. Like I said in a recent episode, he was a product killer, not a process killer. He hated murdering people. He just wanted the corpse.
Right.
So he would put his head on their chest and listen to their heartbeat, and he would learn the exact moment of their heartbeat of when they were coming out of their drug-induced coma, and that's when he would strangle them. But back to the fact that this was a child. When Jeffrey was asked about like why he picked his victims the way he did, his favorite thing about a corpse or a body is a bare chest torso area.
Okay.
He said it was all about looks more than it was about race or anything else. It wasn't necessarily the age. Like he wasn't into little boys. He was just into a bare chest torso. That could have been a 50-year-old that waxed, you know. It was more about just like the looks of it. I feel like I'm trying to defend him and I'm not. I'm just, I wish I could like pull up my Google search history for the last week or two of the weird things about like, why did Jeffrey Dahmer blah, blah, blah.
You're on the FBI watch list now, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So on March 24th, 1988, Jeffrey picked up his next victim, 22-year-old Richard Guerrero, who basically had the same fate as all the others. He brought him back to his bedroom, drugged him, strangled him to death. But this time he took it a step further. He had sex with the corpse for the very first time. So again, each time he kills, it's like he escalates it further and further and further. He also started dissolving the flesh with acid rather than just chopping it up and throwing it away in trash bags. He kind of went back to that chemistry part when he was a kid and the different acids that could dissolve flesh.
Okay.
Again, he's living with his grandma. Just a reminder. Well, his grandma was starting to have quite enough of Jeffrey. She was sick of his behavior with all the late nights, all the drinking, bringing home all these boys all the time, his arrests, and, quote, the terrible smell coming from the basement. Which I'm like, why didn't you go down and investigate? But whatever.
Right. Come on now.
She also talked about how there was like black ooze coming out of the trash bags.
She was just a sweet little grandma.
She also found a store mannequin in his closet that he apparently used as a sex doll. So in the summer of 1988, she had enough and said, look, I love you, but I'm kicking you out. And he moved into his own apartment on the west side of Milwaukee, closer to his job at the chocolate factory. But shortly after moving into his new apartment in September of 88, Jeffrey really fucked up. He tried to pick up a 13-year-old Laotian boy. He asked him, hey, you want to help me try out my new camera? Offered him $50 and said, you know, let me take some pictures of you. And he agreed. So they went back to his apartment where Jeffrey took very obscene Polaroids of this child, fondled him, and while he was taking these pictures, made him a drink of Bailey's and coffee mixed with Halcyon. I think I'm saying that right, which is similar to Valium.
Did he say, have you ever drank Bailey's from a shoe? That's right. I'm old Jeff. Sorry, guys. The pedophilia, the rape, the drugs. It's just...
Thanks for lightening the mood.
Yeah, I tried.
So he gave him Bailey's and coffee with drugs in it.
Asshole.
What's really weird, and I could not find the answer to this, is after all this, he let him go.
Yeah, why?
I don't know, but he let him go. So, of course, when this kid comes home, his family noticed him walking funny, talking funny, like he's drunk. So they took him to the ER where they confirmed he had drugs in his system, and he was mentioning something about a sandy-haired man, which sounds like every parent's nightmare. Reason number 542 why I do not have children. So they eventually linked him to Jeffrey, because at this point, Jeffrey was already a registered sex offender. So they arrested him, and when he was questioned, he blamed the kid for drinking from the wrong cup. He's like, no, I made myself Bailey's and coffee. God. He just grabbed my cup and drank it by mistake. This was an accident. And he also said he thought he was 18, not 13. He said, oh, he looked much older. I thought he was 18. But either way, he did own up to it and showed a lot of remorse for his wrongdoing and apologized sincerely. His defense attorney argued that he needed treatment, not incarceration. And the judge agreed. So in May of 1989, he sentenced him to a 1-year prison day release program, meaning he could work his job during the day, and when he was done, he would come to prison at night, along with 5 years probation. But while he was awaiting his sentencing for this, he killed again. Blows my mind.
Couldn't even wait.
Waited
that 9 years, but you can't wait for sentencing.
On March 25th, 1989, almost a year to the day after his last murder, he met 24-year-old Anthony Sears, who was an aspiring model visiting from Chicago, and lured him to his grandma's basement, where he proceeded to drug and strangle him like the others. But rather than butchering and tossing the remains like he did all the others, he decided he wanted to keep even more body parts, and he wanted to create an altar. At the end of his career of being a serial killer, he would have an altar of 7 skulls, 2 full skeletons, on a black table in front of a window with a black shower curtain, covered with photographs of all of his previous victims, and incense sticks on each end.
Dude.
So he could just sit and just bathe in the memories of all these murders he did.
It's real fucking sick.
So he boiled the skull with just water this time. He learned his lesson. And then painted it gray because he thought, well, if I get caught, I want it to look plastic and say, oh, no, that's a fake skull.
Oh my
and this
Lord.
was going to be the centerpiece for his altar. He also preserved his genitalia in acetone in a jar. And he kept both the head and the genitalia in a locked metal box in his closet. But one day, his dad and his stepmom came to visit him at his grandma's, and his dad discovered the box in his closet.
Oh, my.
So he's like, Jeffrey, what's in the box? Oh, what's that movie? Brad Pitt. What's in the box? 7. That's what I pictured with his dad. But anyways, the box was locked. So Jeffrey got mad, and he's like, can I not have any privacy? And he's like, Jeffrey, just tell me what's in the box. And so he got mad and left. His dad went to get a screwdriver to try to pry the box open. Jeffrey comes back and goes, I'm sorry, Dad. I lost my temper. There's stuff in there that I am ashamed of. And his dad goes, that's fine. Just tell me what's in the box. And he goes, you know what, Dad? I'm upset. Let's talk about this in the morning. And he goes, okay. So meanwhile, Jeffrey removes the head and the genitalia and takes it to his job and keeps it in his work locker and put porn in the box and told his dad it was my porn collection. And his dad goes, okay, that's fine, but, maybe just get rid of it.
So close.
He was this close to getting caught. So, after being released from his work release prison sentence, he briefly lived with his grandmother again so he could save up and move into the now infamous Apartment of Horrors number 213, located at 924 North 25th Street in Milwaukee. And less than a week in this brand new apartment, he decides to kill again. But you'll have to wait till next week.
Oh my God. I wish you were here so I could throw this rock at you.
It sounds like we've covered a majority of his life and his murders, and we have just touched the surface, my friends. If you don't know the story of Jeffrey Dahmer, it only gets worse from here. Love our podcast? Then hit that subscribe button and leave us a review.
We're also on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/truecrimebuzz and join today for access to all our exclusive content, including bonus episodes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at TC Buzz Podcast.
And check out our website at www.truecrimebuzz.com.
Until next time, cheers!